Anos was an overpowered demon king who sacrificed himself to end the war between humans and demons. However, after reincarnating 2,000 years into the future, he enrolls in the Magic Academy and starts cracking everyone for fun. A long time ago, Anos, the Demon King, slayed all the anime gods and conquered not just Earth, but the entire universe. Over time, he grew bored of a pointless war against humans, so he proposed a truce with the hero, Kanon, offering to sacrifice his life to establish global peace. Kanon was surprised but accepted the deal, so Anos let himself get stabbed in the chest and then promised to be friends with Kanon the next time he reincarnated. About 2,000 years later, Anos is reborn as a baby into an ordinary family, but becomes an adult just 2 weeks after being born, and decides to enroll in the Demon King Academy to become the Demon Lord over again. On entrance examination day, Anos runs into Misha, a fellow candidate, and they are both embarrassed by their parents, who enthusiastically wish them success. Just at the academy's gate, another student named Zepes, who happens to be from a royal family, tries to pick on them. But Anos turns off all notifications and walks past him. Annoyed, Zepes attempts to turn them into crisps with his fire spell that can even burn the gods, but Anos quickly blows off the fire with only his breath and then uses compulsion magic to make Zepes stand stiff until he starts begging to be freed. A bit later, Anos arrives at an arena to fight, as it's a prerequisite for passing the entrance exams. However, Zepes is announced as his opponent, who starts bragging about his loadout armor, claiming it can resist demon magic and that Anos got nothing on him this time. Zepes then decides to attack Anos with his family's legendary sword, which increases his powers by 10, but Anos humiliates him, saying 0 multiplied by 10 is still 0. Anos then boasts that he can defeat him without moving an inch or using any kind of magic. To show he's not capping, Anos makes Zepes bleed using the sound waves of his heartbeat. Despite that, Zepes refuses to surrender, so Anos decides to beat him to a pulp until he does. After that, he disintegrates Zepes with a finger flick and quickly revives him, which leaves everyone, including Zepes, in utter shock. Despite that, Zepes refuses to give up, so Anos smirks and unalives him a couple times, until Zepes begs to be spared because dying and coming back to life many times can cause brain cancer. After the fight, Anos heads off to assess his magic power levels, but the testing crystal reads 0 before exploding. Seeing this, Misha says it's because his powers are so potent, and she knows this thanks to her demon eyes. After the test, Anos reunites with Misha outside the academy and invites her to his house to celebrate passing the exam, and she agrees. At his place, Anos informs his mother that he passed the examination, which makes her very happy with him. Anos then introduces Misha as his colleague at school, but his mother completely misunderstands the situation and thinks Anos has brought a wife home. His father buys the idea and starts rejoicing because his son is a gigachad and is good with them chicks. After dinner, Anos walks Misha home, and he learns that Misha has a guardian because her parents are always busy. He also learns that she has an elder sister with whom she does not get along, but this bothers him. Noticing this, Misha tells him he is kind-hearted, and Anos laughs this off because everyone used to hate on him when he was the Demon Lord. He then offers to befriend Misha, but all of a sudden, Leorg, Zepes' brother, forms an arena around them to interrupt their bonding session. Seeing that Anos and Misha are trapped, Zepes gets too excited and brags to Anos that his brother will finish him off. All of a sudden, Leorg grabs him by the neck and calls him a disgrace to their royal family line for losing to Anos like a rat, and then roasts the life out of Zepes until he is crisp. After that, he prepares magic circles with his guys to teach Anos a lesson, but due to Anos' intimidating demon eyes, their magic circles run out of control, which leads to an explosion. Leorg survives and desperately tries to use a forbidden spell known as the Origin Magic to attack Anos, only to be stunned when the spell turns to dust. At this, Anos says Origin Magic cannot affect the Origin itself, leaving Leorg in shock. Anos then respawns Zepes as a schizophrenic zombie who attacks Leorg in revenge for eliminating him. While this happens, Anos tells Leorg to acknowledge Zepes as his brother so they can fight him together. But Leorg refuses because Zepes is a brainless zombie who disgraced their family. As Zepes draws closer to Leorg, he becomes scared for his life and almost wets himself because his zombie brother will cook him. Out of desperation, he listens to Anos and tries to call out Zepes' name to see if he'll return to his senses, but it's too late, as Zepes attacks him with magic and they both die. Anos then revives them, tells them to work on their bond, and returns to fight with them when they've powered up. The brothers, however, wonder how Anos is so strong, and that's when Anos reveals that he is the true Demon Lord who has returned to rule the world once again. The following week, Misha informs Anos that he is the first misfit at the academy, and Anos wonders why, because he is sure he did not make any mistake in the aptitude test to be labeled a misfit. Since speaking, the academy founder's name is forbidden, Anos reads Misha's mind and is shocked to learn that his name has been replaced with Avos. As Misha continues her discussion, a chick named Sasha walks past them and and checks out Anos's label that signals that he is a misfit. Soon after, Amelia, their homeroom teacher, starts the class and informs the students that she will be dividing them into 2 teams, so anyone who wishes to be a leader of such teams should announce themselves. She also reminds them that the leaders must be able to cast the magic, Geese, which will boost their team's combat power during an upcoming competition. Anos immediately volunteers, but Amelia lets him know that he is unfit to contest because he is a hybrid. Refusing to relent, Anos challenges Amelia to a Zech contract to prove that hybrids are not inferior to purebloods. As they cast the spell, Anos notices flaws in the magic circle and redraws it, thereby doubling its power. Forced to acknowledge his skill, Amelia reluctantly declares his candidacy to the confused students who think Anos is a misfit. Amelia then calls the class to order and tells the other candidates to introduce themselves. Sasha stands up to introduce herself as the Witch of Destruction, while Misha quickly reveals to Anos that she is her sister. Anos asks if they have different parents due to their different uniforms, but Misha replies that it's due to a family decision. When it gets to Anos' turn, he introduces himself as the Demon King of Tyranny and reveals that the current name of the Demon King being used is a fake. The class eventually splits up to follow their leader, but only Misha chooses Anos' group since they are besties. Sasha then walks over to them and calls Misha a defective little junk doll with no life, no soul, and no will. Anos brushes off the insult and informs Sasha that her grasp of magical concepts must be tenuous if she thinks an enchanted doll has no soul or life. Annoyed by his statement, Sasha activates her demonic eyes of destruction, but it has no effect on him and only destroys the wall behind him. In response, Anos goes band for band with her and equally activates his own demonic eyes of destruction, which leaves Sasha speechless. He then compliments Sasha's magic level and asks if she would love to join his team to get closer to Misha, but she angrily replies that she has never thought of Misha as her sister before storming off. After being done with the classes for the day, Anos and Misha walk out of the academy only to bump into Sasha. Sasha challenges Anos to a duel regarding their upcoming competition, stating that if he wins, she would gladly join his team. But if she wins, she is going to own him, and Anos confidently accepts. A week later, Anos and Sasha seal their contract with Zech, and the competition begins soon after. During the course of the competition, Anos casually walks towards Sasha's defensive castle, breaches its walls with a spell, lifts the castle like it is a piece of paper, and begins to spin it without caring about Sasha and her team, who are currently inside. He then hits the castle to the ground, but even at that, Sasha refuses to accept defeat and suggests to her team that they use a magic technique known as Geo-Graze. Together, each member maximizes their unique abilities to form a low-budget armored tank, and they release fire with it. Anos responds with a single shot of fire, which cancels their fire out and heads straight for them. After the impact, Anos appears before Sasha, who is stunned that he performed Geo-Graze alone. He replies that he used a lower-level spell element instead, and she immediately falls to her knees but refuses to join his team and asks that he eliminate her. Instead of accepting her request, he offers her his hand, and she feels so humiliated that she vows to take him out when she eventually gets stronger. He just smirks at her statement and lets her know that if it's about death, he would have already perished 2,000 years ago. He also lets her know that Misha would love for them to be on the same team, so she agrees but states that she is only agreeing because of the contract. She then asks if he only recruited her just for Misha, and he replies that apart from that, he did because he finds her eyes very beautiful, which leaves her flushed. A few hours later, Anos takes the 2 sisters to his home for dinner, and after dinner, he escorts them home, and he is glad to see them holding hands. Getting to their apartment, they bid him farewell, and as he turns to leave, he notices Sasha looking at him and asks what's up. Sasha thanks him for helping her make up with Misha and asks if he can change fate. He replies that he will destroy such a fate, and she grabs his hand to kiss him, after which she claims that it's just an appreciation kiss between friends. He then thanks her for giving him something valuable, but she gets shy and calls him a weird mongrel before bidding him farewell. Before Anos escorted them home after dinner at his place, Sasha found out that Misha likes Anos because she thinks he is kind, but when Misha asked if she liked him, she completely denied it. She then informs her that she is glad that he can look into her demonic eyes without getting destroyed, though. She also reminisces about how Misha used to look into her eyes when everyone else avoided them, and apologizes to Misha for forsaking her, but Misha claims that she's not mad. The next day at school, Misha asks Anos for gifts she can get for Sasha for her birthday coming up the next day. While at it, Sasha interrupts them by taking a seat beside them and informs Anos that her former teammates would love to join his team. He then informs her that he already turned down the request, and Sasha tells him to get it into his dumb skull that they would need more team members to compete in class for future competitions, according to the Academy's rule. A few minutes later, class commences, and Amelia reminds the class that the Demon King of Tyranny is widely expected to awaken very soon. In preparation for that, she informs them that one of the 7 elder demon emperors will be giving a special lecture on great magic. Confused, Anos wonders who the demons are, and Sasha takes her time to lecture him. According to her, the founding ancestor used his own blood to create 7 subordinates, which are now known as the 7 elders, and he finally remembers that he did that. Sasha continues her story by informing him that the 7 elders created the academy to develop future demon lords, but he finds the story odd since the elders are supposed to have known about his existence by now. Soon after, Evis, the elder they are expecting, walks in and Anos immediately tells him what's up, as if they've been long-term friends, which stunned the rest of his classmates. Emilia quickly apologizes for Anos' rude behavior, promising to get him expelled, but Evis tells her not to bother. Evis then continues to converse with Anos, and Anos finds out that Evis has lost his memories from 2,000 years ago. He sends Evis back in time to retrieve his memory, but it doesn't work, so he tells Evis to start the lecture, promising to continue from where he stopped after the class. After the lecture, Evis opens up to Anos that he did go back in time when Anos cast a spell on him, and Anos finds out that the past has actually been altered by someone else. He then figures that the person responsible must have erased Evis' memories, but Evis is skeptical that the culprit may be Anos, since he also possesses the same power that defies time. Anos understands where he is coming from, and Evis decides to be neutral for the time being. 30 minutes later, the students gather for a dungeon exam, which will involve them competing for points in different teams by collecting magical tools, and it will take place at the Demon Palace. They then disperse after the instructions, but Anos remains chilled because he believes that if they get their hands on the scepter at the palace's lowest level, they will receive a perfect point. The girls wonder what he is getting at, and he reminds them they are at his castle. On that note, he takes them through a secret passageway he designed himself, and they end up in a magical catalyst room that he finds a little bit different from how it was 2,000 years ago. After that, he leads them to the altar where the scepter is located, and as Sasha gets lost in the scepter's beauty, he quickly signals to Misha to follow him. He then takes her to a secret room and tells her to pick up any item as Sasha's birthday gift. She grabs a robe before noticing a ring that catches her eye. He tells her to pick it up since he can see that she likes it, but she refuses. When they return to meet Sasha, who is currently mad that she was left alone, Misha hands her the robe, and she immediately feels guilty for not getting Misha anything in return, but Misha replies that she doesn't want anything. She then orders Anos to excuse them because she wants to change into the robe, and he does, while Misha thanks him for helping her out with the gift. Soon after, he returns to see Sasha holding the scepter and Misha sitting on the floor with a knife stabbed to her chest. He demands what Sasha is up to, and Sasha claims that she has been pretending to ensure she gets first place in the dungeon exam. Anos, however, does not believe her because he expected her to have turned Misha into chopped meat if she really meant business. She then reveals that Misha was only born to be used by her so she can do whatever she likes with Misha, and she turns to mock Misha for always acting pathetic, which always makes her skin crawl. She also states that if Anos lays a hand on her, her magic will activate to push the knife deeper into Misha's body. Anos ignores this and catches Sasha's hand while she is flying away, revealing that he healed Misha as soon as he entered the room and put an illusion instead. He then claims that he knows she has been putting up a performance regarding hating Misha and asks how she truly feels. In response, she activates her demonic eyes and he does the same, which instantly sends shock through her body. Misha suddenly stops him from sending Sasha to meet Hades and informs him to let her go, so he complies, which gives Sasha the chance to escape with the robe and scepter. Misha then opens up to Anos that she will disappear when she and Sasha clock their next age and that the person he thinks of as Misha does not actually exist. Anos quickly figures out that what Misha meant by her statement is that she is originally supposed to be Sasha, and he remembers a time 2,000 years ago when a spell was used to separate one person into two. Misha then confirms that when she was still a fetus, she received a share of Sasha's soul through Evis's handiwork. Since the spell is temporary, they will eventually become one again. Misha also lets him know that she has already accepted her fate and just wants to have some memories, but most demons avoided her because they believe she shouldn't exist. So when he eventually spoke to her and they became her friends, it made her glad that she finally experienced a miracle. Anos immediately hugs her, after which he promises to make her wish come true, so she informs him that she would love to make up with Sasha. He then takes her to where Sasha is still trying to escape and informs her that Misha would like to make up with her. Sasha cannot believe Misha is still behaving like a moron after just betraying her, but Misha just wants to know if he truly hates her. Instead of answering, she challenges Anos to a duel, promising to answer Misha's question if he wins the duel. Anos then accepts her duel out of consideration for her reckless courage. Soon after, Sasha begins the challenge by creating 2 magic circles, and if Anos is able to control the magic, he is going to win the duel. After she is done, she informs Anos of the one to control for an easy win, because she never intended to win in the first place. Anos then does as she says and wins the duel, so he informs her to answer Misha's question. Sasha reveals that she has been actively doing research since they were young to change Misha's fate, but since she can't find a solution, she is willing to surrender her life in her stead. Just then, the magic circle lights up, and Sasha encourages Misha to reject her so that the magic can take effect. To further convince her, she starts to cuss at Misha so that she can dislike her, but Misha sees through her bluff and knows she really likes her. She then tries to activate the magic, but fails because Misha has already made up her mind. With tears in her eyes, Sasha desperately begs Misha to reject her, but she refuses. Misha then turns to Anos, stating that she has no regrets because she got to have 2 miracles. Anos, however, does not share her sentiment because he plans to save both of them. He then proposes sending them back in time so they can merge their incomplete sources with their unborn selves and be reborn as true twin sisters. Sasha immediately opposes the idea because the magic is too great for them to cast, but he assures them that he will lend them part of his magic power. He then informs them that that for this to work, they have to accept him and not the current imposter as the true Demon King. They inform him that they believe, but before he can reply, a sword suddenly stabs him from behind. Apparently, Evis, the owner of the sword, is not happy that Annos has turned himself into the girl's savior because he plans to use their fused body to host the true reincarnated Demon King. Annos frees himself from Evis's hold and casually removes the sword from his chest before throwing it at Evis's face. After that, he moves on to the business at hand and casts a spell to send the girls back in time, only to be stopped by Hugo, the guardian of time. Annos pleads with him to look the other way this time around, but he refuses because he takes his job seriously. He then heals Evis from the injury he sustained earlier and grants him the power of time to annihilate Annos for attempting to defy time. Annos quickly casts Geo Graze, but it stops halfway because time has stopped. Evis then proceeds to flex his new power by striking the protective barrier Annos is now using to protect himself and the chicks. Evis eventually stabs Annos for the second time, and Annos dies while Evis laughs at his victory. He then begins to give a speech about how Annos fled the battle 2,000 years ago, only to be interrupted by a resurrected Annos, who claims that he actually remembered him and only pretended to have dementia. Refusing to give up, Evis starts to summon all the spells of time he knows to stop Annos, since he has proven to be a cat with 9 lives, but he fails miserably. Even though he is surprised, he continues to try his luck, and while at it, the two get into a heated argument on who the true Demon King is until Annos eventually strikes him. Annos then breaks Sasha and Misha from the time loop they are stuck in, and the two immediately confess that they believe that he is the awakened Demon King. With that, they time travel into the past while Evis watches in disbelief as his 2,000-year plan collapses. Annos then turns his attention to Evis, wields his demonic sword, and destroys Evis with it. After that, he resurrects him and discovers that he is fused to a third unknown source. Since Evis still can't remember much, he gives him his memories that he has with him and figures that the person probably taking over Evis' body works for Avos. He then instructs Evis to investigate the person discreetly, and just then, Sasha and Misha return as sisters with separate sources. Seeing that his job is done, he returns the scepter because he would still love to get a perfect score for the exam, since he has never gotten a perfect score before. 2,000 years ago, Annos and his right-hand man Shin encountered Lingyan, the Great Water Spirit, while searching for Reno, the Great Spirit. Shin told him not to bother himself with such a bottom feeder, and he agreed to leave the task to him, promising to grant him a wish if he defeats Lingyan in one strike. Shin then dismantled Lingyan within seconds, after which he asked Annos for permission to reincarnate, and Annos agreed. Just then, Cannon approaches them for a duel, and Annos assumes Reno must be nearby since she is close with Cannon, so he instructs Shin to find her while he deals with Cannon. In the present, Emilia announces that a transfer student, who is a pureblood and notable for his sword skill, will be joining them the next day. She then reveals that the scepter Annos' team recovered the previous day has been stolen, and she did not get to appraise it before the incident, so they are temporarily given a score of 70 until the culprit is found. Sasha immediately kicks against it, but Emilia refuses, while the other students immediately suspect Annos. Misa, a classmate, however, defends them, arguing that purebloods would not be treated this harshly, but Emilia reminds her that her Unitarian campaigns are prohibited on campus. Annos takes matters into his own hands and exposes the real culprit himself by retrieving the sword from a fellow student who had kept it hidden. He then hands it over to Emilia and advises her to do a better job next time she tries to sabotage them. After the class, Misa meets with Annos and tells him about the Unitarians, whose goal is to form a fair society instead of one where purebloods look down on hybrids. She then invites him to come check them out, stating that they believe he is the true Demon King. She also talks about how Borin, a member of the Seven Elders, is a member of her club, and Annos becomes intrigued. Shortly after, Misa takes Annos, in the company of Sasha and Misha, to a place that belongs to Annos' fan union, a name they came up with to keep their Unitarian actions a secret. Getting inside, the students see Annos and immediately become starstruck, like he's some kind of celebrity. After the whole commotion, Misa shows Annos and the others a sword she received as a gift from his father. She then reveals that she is half spirit because her mother was a spirit while her father was a demon, but her mother passed on after her birth, and she has never met her father. She thinks her father is a pureblood, and it is going to cause trouble if it is found that a pureblood produces offspring with hybrids. Since her father gifted her the half sword, she believes that her father holds the other half, which makes her believe that a day will come when purebloods and hybrids will unite as one. She then pleads with Annos to let her union join his team, and he agrees to let them join if they prove themselves. The next day at school, the students have a hard time pulling out the magic sword stuck to the ground as part of their class lessons. While at it, Gaios and Idor, who are among the 7 elder demon emperors, interrupt them to let them know that they are willing to train anybody who pulls out the sword successfully for the upcoming magic sword tournament. Annos then pulls out a sword with his mind, and Gaios informs him that he will be training him. Just then, Lei, another student pulls out his sword, and they realize that he is the new transfer student. Idor challenges Lei to show his skill, but he refuses, and Idor proceeds to strike him, only to get struck by him instead. Anos also takes Gaiyos out in a single blow, which gives him the chance to bond with Lei over their shared swordsmanship. During the next lesson, Lei refuses to be a team leader despite his abilities and asks Anos if he can join his team. Even though Anos is impressed, he rejects his offer. Lei asks if he should kiss his shoes to change his mind, and he encourages him to do so if he is ready to get a kick to the face. Anos then calls out to Misa to let Lei join her team during the next team competition and compete against him. The day of the competition finally arrives, and Misa's team is surprised by how Lei is addressing them since they are hybrids and he is a pureblood. Lei then explains that he's just a chill guy who does not care about the rules, and he doubts whether the real Demon King made such rules in the first place. Meanwhile, Anos' team is cooking up their strategy for the competition, and Anos informs them that he will take on Lei. Misha then builds a castle by casting a spell, and Sasha heads out first with Anos following afterwards. Shortly after, Anos arrives at Lei's spot and realizes that Lei is lending his magic power to Misa and her team to help them win, but Lei claims that he rarely uses his spell anyway. They then proceed to fight each other, with Anos holding a tree branch, while Sasha tries to fight the moving castle currently housing Misa's team. From inside the castle, Misha uses Geograze to create an armored tank, which combines with Sasha's attacks to bombard the moving castle. Anos and Lei continue to fight with each other till they form an earthquake, and they start to talk about how they are enjoying themselves with the fight since they match each other's aura. Anos eventually gets Lei with his tree branch, even though Lei sliced a part of the branch off. Lei surrenders and informs him that as they fight each other, he keeps getting the feeling that this is not their first time meeting. He then asks if he can still join Anos' team since he lost, and Anos accepts him by offering him a handshake, which he takes and promises to defeat him in their next duel. After the competition, Anos' parents host them for dinner, and Misa feels awkward joining the dinner after losing the competition. Anos assures her that she is his subordinate now because he sees potential in her, which makes her happy. His parents also praise him for doing great in school and assure him that he will make a good demon lord one day, since they believe that it is his dream. After dinner, his parents open up to Sasha and Misha about the difficulty they faced during Anos' birth and the promise they made to devote themselves to raising him, which is why they support everything he does. Meanwhile, Misa and Lei step outside for a fresh breeze, and they begin to talk about the day's competition. During the conversation, Misa tries to recruit Lei to join her Unitarian club since he does not discriminate, but he casually dismisses it. He then asks if she's feeling well because he learned that half-spirits like her rarely live long. Misa is surprised to hear this, as she is not sure of the theory herself, and she watches him go inside with fear on her face. The next day in class, Emilia announces that Lei and Anos have been selected from the class to compete in the upcoming magic sword tournament and informs them to equip themselves with a magic sword for the tournament. After the class, Anos opens up to Lei that he suspects foul play because the purebloods would never willingly let hybrids win the tournament, and he wonders why they picked him to compete. Just then, Misa interrupts their discussion to inform Anos that Boren is around and would love to meet him. Getting to Boren begins to shed tears on seeing Anos and immediately bows to inform him that he has been waiting for him to resurrect. He then talks about how he thinks someone caught him off guard and erased his memories, but his source never forgot about Anos, which is why he still recognizes him as the true Demon King. Boren also reveals that after Anos created the walls, he became trapped in the Great Forest for over a century. By the time he finally returned to civilization, the Demon King's name had already been changed. Anos then asks Boren if he knows what Avos is plotting, but he claims that he doesn't, so he asks if he knows who chose him for the tournament, and he replies that it must be people who are against the Unitarians' policy and want to defeat him to crush the club's hope. Boren then advises him to step away from the tournament because he believes Avos may give himself away if he refuses to take the bait. As Anos settles for dinner at home later in the evening, he learns from his mother that Emilia stopped by before his return to show her support, and he becomes suspicious because Emilia is not his biggest fan. The next day, Anos takes Misha out on an outing to appreciate her for making dinner at his home the previous day. Getting to a magic model workshop, Misha casts a spell to create a prototype of them having dinner. When it's Anos' turn, he recreates the entire city, which shocks the shop owner. After they are done at the shop, Misha starts admiring the town's prototype that Anos made, like it's some prized treasure, and Anos is very pleased that her great vision points out even the tiniest details on it. He then converts the prototype to a ring and wears it on her finger, stating that it is hers, so she can look at it whenever she wants. Soon after, they visit a cat cafe, and Evis, disguised as a talking cat, informs Anos that someone above Boren is actually controlling the Unitarians, though the Unitarians don't know who it is. Evis also lets him know that another person with an unknown identity is in the city, and the person is affiliated with the city's magic clinic. Anos then tells him to investigate Boren and also do some research on the upcoming tournament, and Evis complies. Afterwards, Anos and Meisha visit the clinic, but Anos finds nothing suspicious about the place. Just then, Lei walks up to them to ask what's up, and Anos claims that they are just passing by. They then find out that Lei's mother is at the clinic receiving treatment, but when Anos offers to heal her himself, Lei declines because Anos is clearly not a doctor. As he bids them farewell and enters the clinic, Anos quickly tells him that he may skip the upcoming upcoming tournament, and he replies that they will just settle their score some other time then. Misha suspects that Lei seems different than usual, and Anos thinks of sending Evis to also look into him. On the day of the tournament, Evis gives him some recent updates on his findings. Apparently, Boran has nothing to do with the tournament, but Gaios and Idor seem to be involved and are willing to have Anos fall into some kind of trap they've set up. He also learns that Lei's mother has an extremely rare disease known as the spirit disease. He then turns to return to the arena, determined not to participate in the tournament. Soon after, Anos' opponent, Kurt, who is the previous tournament winner and a brother to Emilia, steps into the arena, but when Anos is called upon to step out, he refuses because he does not want to contest. This causes an uproar among the students who are purebloods as they begin to mock him for being a cowardly hybrid, but his mother, who is also in the crowd, becomes angry and starts to loudly praise Anos for his outstanding qualities. Just then, Anos' father runs up to him backstage to give him a magic sword he has been working on for days. This gesture makes him change his mind, and he decides to contest to make his parents proud. As the fight between Anos and Kurt progresses, Anos' fan union turns themselves into certified cheerleaders and begin to sing to encourage Anos. Anos eventually finishes off Kurt and proudly points out that the fight only lasted a minute, while Emilia becomes blinded by rage from watching the fight. After his fight, Anos watches the next fight in the waiting room and sees that Lei won the round. But the way Lei is announced makes him realize that he now works for the purebloods. When Lei eventually walks into the waiting room, Anos confronts him about his decision, but Lei coldly reminds them that he is a pureblood and vows to defeat Anos if they meet in the finals. Hearing this, Anos decides to provoke Lei, and as they attack each other, Anos lands a direct hit on Lei's chest. They then release each other, promising to meet each other in the finals for round 2. However, Anos figures out during the course of their fight that Lei is being held hostage by a contractual magic sword that has the tendency to destroy his source under certain conditions, and he wonders if it has anything to do with his mother in the clinic. After winning his next match to advance to the finals, his fan club and parents praise him for doing a good job. He then announces that he will be heading out to run a personal errand, and his mother offers to carry his sword. He refuses at first because the sword is heavy, but after his mother continues to convince him, he drops it with her, and his fan club also promises to look after it. Afterwards, he teleports to the clinic with Misa to check on Lei's mother. As they stare at her like they have the medical degree to understand her condition, Anos figures that Lei's mother is a half-spirit just like Misa, which means that she probably adopted Lei since he is a pureblood. Just then, Lei's mother wakes up from her sleep and recognizes Anos as a friend Lei once told her about. During the course of their discussion, Anos finds out that Lei entered a contractual agreement with the purebloods in exchange for getting his mother treated at the clinic, so he asks her to enlighten him about her disease in order to help her. While at it, Anos learns from her that Lei loved swordplay as a youngster, but always got bored because he was always winning. Since his mother fell sick, he only grew lonelier, so she pleads with Anos to free Lei and not let him fight dishonestly during the final fight. She also talks about how she does not have a desire to live if it stands in the way of helping Lei, and a soft-hearted Misa starts to ask Anos if there is any way to help her. Anos replies that he does not know her tradition well enough, so it will be difficult to heal her completely, and Misa quickly offers to share her power source since they are both half-spirits. He then creates a new magic spell that may get both Misa and Lei's mother wiped out if care is not taken. Lei's mother warns Misa not to go through with the plan, but she refuses because she believes Anos will do a good job, so they begin the process. Meanwhile, Anos' mother and Anos' fan union are on their way home, only to be suddenly interrupted by Emilia, who wants Anos' sword to be given to her. Anos' mother, however, refuses to give her the sword because Anos trusted her with it. Emilia then decides to take the sword by force by casting a spell to attack Anos' mother. She goes for the fan union next, and Anos' mother is in disbelief that Emilia would treat her students like that. Emilia quickly lets her know that she does not consider hybrids as her students, but as thieves who eavesdrop in her classes. She then tries to strike Anos' mother one more time to steal the sword, but the fan union immediately puts up a barrier and pleads with Anos' mother to escape with the sword. She continues to strike them, but the fan union refuses to relent, which makes her angrier, till she eventually turns the innocent girls to toast. After that, she goes for Anos' mother next, but Anos quickly appears to stop her. He then holds Emilia still with the power of his words and heals his mother and the fan union. He also asks for each member of the fan union's name and promises to never forget their names for as long as he lives because he is indebted to them for protecting his mother. Afterwards, he angrily teleports Emilia to the arena, where he stabs her with a sword, thereby inflicting a fatal wound on her. He then humiliates her by making her beg for her life and having her openly acknowledge him as the true demon king of Tyrann. But even though she complies, he eliminates her because he believes she is lying. As if that is not enough, he immediately resurrects her as the very thing she despises. She quickly tries to take her life because she cannot imagine living as a hybrid, but he lets her know that he has placed a curse on her so that she will always be resurrected as a hybrid whenever she dies. He then encourages her to try to see things from a different perspective now that she is a hybrid before taking his leave. Back at the hospital, Lei suddenly stops Misa from trying to share her power with his mother, only for his mother to call on him. He quickly runs to her side, promising to win, but his mother just tells him to live his life as he wants to. He then takes his leave just as Anos teleports back to the room, and he quickly looks out the window to see Lei walking away. The next day, Anos and Lei face each other in the finals with Anos' fan union and parents cheering for Anos. Before the fight officially commences, it is announced that the fight will be played under special rules. Anos and Lei are both given bracelets to wear on their arms, and if the bracelets get destroyed in the process of their fight, it will be counted as a loss. Anos also learns that if he ends up defeating Lei, Lei's source will be wiped out by the contractual magic sword. They then begin to fight each other, only for Lei to stab the contractual magic in his chest. Since he can't heal his mother, he might as well violate the contract and go all out in the fight till he eventually dies because he violated the contract. Anos then suggests that they fight only for their sakes, and they commence the fight while the crowd complains about how fast they are going at each other. As they continue to fight, Lei lands the first hit on Anos' arm, and he hits Lei by the side in retaliation. Soon after, Lei chops off Anos' arms just as Anos stabs his chest. Boren then suddenly reveals himself as the one who planted the contractual magic sword inside Lei and is also in charge of selecting Anos for the tournament, just as he transfers Anos to a dimensional prison. Boren also summons Gaios and Idor, who already have a beef with Anos, to fight him, but Lei appears and beheads both Gaios and Idor in a clean sweep. Surprised by this, Boren learns that Anos' last strike destroyed the contractual magic sword thanks to the trust they have for each other, and Boren cannot believe he got blindsided. Boren, however, refuses to back down and informs them that he still has the upper hand since he still has Lei's mother as his hostage. He then tells Lei to swear his loyalty to the purebloods in exchange for releasing his mother, but Anos just encourages him to finish her off instead. Lei then distracts Boren with his sword and jumps into the dimension Boren showed them that contains his mother. Confident in himself, Boren reveals the walls that were used to divide the world into 4 parts 2,000 years ago when Anos sacrificed himself, and uses his power to attack Anos just as he heads into an absolute space that no one can enter except him, who casts the spell. He then positions himself like he is in a surveillance room and watches both Anos and Lei, who is now with his mother, try to fight for their life. In the meantime, Lei and Anos communicate on a strategy they can use to defeat Boren and save themselves from their current hellhole, but when they eventually implement the strategy, it fails. Lei starts to apologize for lacking the strength to continue, and just then, his mother calls to him to encourage him. She then transforms into her true self, which happens to be a sword that he can use to defeat Boren, despite his pleas. With newfound strength, he angrily slashes through Boren's power as he remembers the times he spent with his mother when he was younger, till he slashes his absolute space, which causes a scratch to form on Boren's face. After that, the sword transforms back into his mother, who professes her love to him before she finally disappears. As he begins to get teary, Anos quickly interrupts him to save his tears for another day because they still have to deal with Boren if he truly wants to avenge his mother. Meanwhile, Boren brags that he still has more reserves up his sleeve, only for Anos to suddenly appear behind him because he can track him thanks to the scratch on his cheek he sustained from the sword. Boren quickly traps him in a silo to avoid being dinner before detonating it, but he is extremely shocked to see that he survives the attack. Anos then summons his sword and proceeds to attack him, but he successfully dodges the slash to escape, only for his legs to suddenly be cut off from his body, leaving him confused. He then learns that Anos' sword annihilates all laws, so his dodging the sword attack does not mean that it still would not slash him. Boren then tries a different attack to stop Anos from approaching him by putting up multiple glass barriers, but Anos slashes through each one of them with ease. When he finally gets to him, he aims for his skull with his sword, thereby destroying the device present inside of him. Boren finally regains control of himself, apologizes for his behavior, and explains the reason behind his actions to Anos. Apparently, after their last meeting, an unknown entity suddenly attacked Boren, and they have been manipulating him ever since the day. Hearing this, Anos instructs him to summon Gaios and Idor, after which he separates their sources from the sources that were also controlling them to misbehave, just as he suspects that the whole situation must be Avos' doing. He then tries to resurrect them, but a strange guy wearing a low-budget Black Panther mask suddenly interrupts him, and when Anos questions his mission, he suddenly leaves. Anos instructs Boren to resurrect Gaios and Idor and undo the dimensional prison so they can return to the real world. The crowd finally sees them, and the announcer announces Anos as the winner of the duel, which makes his parents extremely happy. Anos then dedicates his win to the sword his father gave him and declares that his father is a true craftsman, which leaves his father in tears. After that, he heals Lei, who becomes sad that he is going to be motherless, only to hear from Anos that his mother is fine. To prove his point, Anos resurrects his mother, and they embrace each other. When the time for the prize giving finally arrives, Sasha comes forward to present a commemorative sword to Anos and kisses him on the cheek before claiming that she she only did it because it was customary. 2,000 years ago, Anos approached Kanan to discuss ending the war between humans and demons, claiming that humanity is not the only side that desires peace. As they continue to converse, Jirga, Kanan's mentor, suddenly interrupts them to punch Anos, only to be stopped by the barrier Anos immediately put up. While attempting to break the barrier, Jirga informed Kanan not to believe Anno's peace talk and informed Annos that humans craved his death because he wanted to avenge the death of his family and comrades. After successfully breaking the barrier, he attempts to punch Anos, only to get punched in the chest by Anos instead. As Jirga fell to his knees, Anos reminded him that humans also eliminated his mother. He then turned his attention back to Kanan and informed him to meet him at his castle if he was interested in ending the war. After Anos left, Jirga informed Kanan not to trust the demons, as coexistence between the two races is impossible. Kanan then takes his leave while Jirga succumbs to his injuries. Back in the present, Menno introduces herself to Anos' class as Amelia's temporary replacement. She then announces that in 3 weeks, the Inter-Academy classes will be held and the venue will be at the Heroes Academy in the human realm. The students become curious about what heroes are, and Menno uses the chance to teach them the history behind heroes. Anos chimes in with his personal knowledge about heroes, stating that the heroes use their magic to attack and destroy the castles that they build for defense during a fight. On that note, Menno announces that there will be an exam between them and the heroes during the Inter-Academy classes, so they should start preparing to ace the exam. After the class, Anos trains Lei, Misha, and Sasha on how to improve their respective magic and skills for the upcoming exam since he knows how strong heroes can be. A few hours later, Borin informs Anos that Gaios and Idor have been successfully resurrected, stating that his suspicion of someone taking over their sources to control them is true. Borin also advises him to be extra careful during his stay at the Hero Academy because, according to his investigation, the Academy is training reincarnated heroes, despite the world being at peace, which raises Borin's suspicion. Shortly after, Anos takes Lei to his treasure vault to check out his sword collection since he lost his sword during the training session earlier. Lei then takes an interest in a sword, and Anos explains that the sword is a blunt one if he does not focus on slashing his object with his heart fully into it. 3 weeks later, the students converge to begin their journey to the Heroes Academy. Menno speaks through an owl to address the students on how to navigate themselves to the Hero Academy. The journey is going to take 10 days, and any student who fails to reach the academy before then will not be eligible to take part in the exam. The students then head out in their numbers while Sasha and the others think of a faster route to get to the academy on time. Anos interrupts them and teleports them straight to the academy, which Sasha doesn't like because getting there with zero effort took all the thrill out. With extra time in their hands, the group split up to do something in the meantime, and Sasha accompanies Anos to do some digging on what Borin informed him during their last encounter. As they walk through the busy streets, Sasha warns Anos not to cause any trouble since they still have classes to attend there, and he assures to be on his best behavior, claiming to have common sense. Upon getting to the academy gate, Anos attempts to break in, ignoring his talk about common sense, only to be stopped by Eleanor, a third year at the academy. Eleanor learns that they are students from the Demon Academy who claim to be intrigued by hero legends, and she decides to be their tour guide on the spot. She then takes them to the academy library, where she recommends a book they can read to learn more about heroes. She informs them that the book contains the story of how Kanan defeated the Demon King of Tyranny, and this strikes a nerve with Sasha, who asks if she can confirm the story. Confused, Eleanor replies that it is a known fact, which makes Sasha angrily ask who built the walls that divided the world into 2,000 years ago. Eleanor replies that Kanan built it to protect humans from the riffraff of the demon race, and she angrily sets the record straight that the Demon King of Tyranny was responsible. Anos soon interrupts her and tells her to chill, because they need to let them believe Kanan eliminated the Demon King for peace to reign. He then asks Eleanor for the name of the new Demon King, and she replies that it is Avos, which makes him confirm that the history was also changed in the human realm. He also learns about the special class dedicated to reincarnated heroes from different eras, and that there are 4 reincarnations of Kanan. So he asks if the 4 of them have memories of Kanan, because that should have helped fix the history about what truly went down. Just then, Ledriano and Laos, 2 of Kanan's reincarnations, interrupt their small talk, but Anos has a hard time believing that they are Kanan's reincarnations because he believes Kanan only has one true source, so the rest are duds. This only angers Laos as he moves forward to flex his muscles on Anos, only to fail miserably. Laos tries attacking Anos again, but Ledriano stops him and apologizes for his rudeness. Afterwards, Anos leaves the library with the others, and on getting out, he informs them that if he had gone up against the real Kanan, the fight would not have ended like that. He then opens up to Eleanor about how he was hoping to meet him because of the promise they made in the past, and Eleanor uses the chance to reveal to him that the real Kanan was eliminated 2,000 years ago by a human. 10 days later, Menno welcomes the rest of the students to the Demon Academy and gives them an A for effort. As they collapse to rest, one of them notices Anos' group walking in, and he is shocked to discover that they've been chilling at the academy for the past 10 days. Anos' group is soon approached by Revest, a third-year student who accuses them of cheating, but Anos just praises him for making it to the academy in 2 days. During the assembly, Diego, the headmaster of Hero Academy, officially welcomes the students to their first class together. Menno then informs them that each academy will use the objects on the table to demonstrate some magic to showcase each academy's spell abilities. Ledriano is chosen for the Hero Academy, while Revest volunteers for the Demon Academy. Ledriano then goes first and successfully performs his magic demonstration, but when it gets to Revest's turn, his spell fails to work. Seeing that the Academy is about to be ridiculed, Anos chimes in to help Revest out and reveals that Ledriano cheated by using a concealed barrier that seals magic cast by demons. He breaks the spell, thereby allowing Revest's spell to activate. He also shows that he is the boss by nullifying the spells and creating a holy sword, which surprises Diego, because Anos is a demon. A rift soon forms between the two academies because Anos is considered a misfit while Revest gives him a despicable look. After the strenuous class, Anos receives intel from Eviz in his room that Canon was not eliminated by a human, but an odd phrase is being passed by members of the Heroes Academy, which happens to be a form of brainwashing to eliminate the Demon King if he ever reincarnates. A knock then interrupts their conversation, so he tells Eviz to carry on with the investigation while he goes to open the door for Sasha and Misha. Soon after, the three of them head to the city center to celebrate, and Anos learns that the city is currently celebrating the birth of Jurga. They then notice Lei and Misa moving about like they are on a date, and Sasha stops Anos from going to meet them. However, Lei and Misa are just casually hanging out as they discuss the events of what happened in class earlier in the day, and they wonder if there is going to be bad blood now that they have turned the class into an argument center. During the course of their discussion, Lei thanks her for helping out with his mother's illness, which makes her laugh in embarrassment because she suddenly feels shy. They then check out some cool necklaces on display while Anos and the others continue to watch them from afar like spies on a mission. Lei picks out a necklace with 2 strings for Misa as a token of gratitude, and he wears it for her. The next morning, on the way to lectures, Misa's fan union stares at the necklace like they've never seen one before and begins to bombard her with questions like, who gave it to her? Sasha and the others who are walking behind them also start to talk about the necklace, and Anos reveals the romantic backstory associated with the necklace. Getting to the lakeside where the lecture is supposed to be held for the day, the Hero Academy separates itself from the Demon Academy, and Anos notices that Eleanor is missing. Soon after, Diego suddenly announces that they will be having the inter-academy exams, stating that the lake is the venue for the exam. When the time for selection arrives, Revest suggests that his team participate in the exam instead of Anos's team, because not only is Anos's team small in number, but Revest believes in the teaching of Menno that has brought them this far, so Anos agrees to his suggestion. As Revest casts a spell allowing them to investigate the lake, Anos learns from Menno that Revest is actually a kind-hearted guy who used to be a loser who hated the Demon King. But he believes in him now because she explained how the Demon King always has the interest of his people at heart. Meanwhile, none of Revest's teammates can cast any of their spells, but Revest remains calm, believing the magic power arena could be stagnant. He then advises his teammates to search for the enemy in a timely manner using their leak technique. His teammates comply only to be easily picked off by the Hero Academy students. As this is going on, Menno senses foul play, and Anos lends her his demonic eyes to check out what is going on in the lake. They then realize that the hero students are cheating by using holy water that is toxic to demons. Revest's team quickly weakens as the hero students drain their magic power with holy water. Menno quickly tells Diego to rescue her students if he does not want Hero Academy to answer questions if any casualty happens, but Diego casually tells her that he is sent for help, so they should be on their way. She then decides to take matters into her hands, but Anos stops her and uses his magic to rescue his colleagues instead. Menno rushes to Revest to heal him, only to realize that he has been wounded by holy magic, so no healing magic will be effective on him. Menno starts to tear up because she believes it is her fault, and Anos offers to heal him. Revest refuses at first, but caves in after Anos tells him to consider Menno's feelings, so he reveals how Hero Academy cheated in the exam, and Anos heals him. For the next round, Anos and his team face off against the Hero Academy's chosen heroes, Heine, Laus, and Ledriano. As they begin to shade one another, Heine jokingly provokes Anos' team to drain the lake if they consider it disadvantageous to them, and Anos takes the joke seriously by draining it with his magic. Although Diego wants to cancel the exam, the heroes team and Menno insist on continuing with Ledriano, fully confident they would win, as they still have a hidden trump card. Anos casts the magic circle spell for starters, while the heroes team creates a holy castle to establish a defense strategy. An ominous murmur then echoes through the hero team's minds, specifically demanding they eliminate the demons. Immediately, Anos creates a giant black hole and sends it toward the hero team's side, only for it to be deflected by a barrier and destroyed by a chick wielding a sword. Anos figures it is going to be a little harder than expected because the barrier currently protecting the hero's team can weaken their power while enhancing the hero team's own, so they will need to extinguish the barrier first. Misha then suggests building a demon castle within the barrier to negate its effects, but it will take her 3 minutes to complete the task. Anos promises to protect Misha during the time and teleports the two of them within the barrier, and Misha instantly starts to feel its effects. Anos quickly casts a recovery spell on her. She then gets to work and casts a spell, causing a castle to form. Ledriano, Heine, Laos, and the chick from earlier approach Anos just then. When Anos asks for the chick's name because he was impressed by the skill she showcased earlier, Ledriano answers on her behalf because she is mute. He then introduces her as Zeshia, the fourth source of Kanon's reincarnations, and the sword she wields is the Holy Sword of Light, which he believes will soon split Misha's castle in a single blow. The heroes then try to cast anti-barrier chains at Misha, but Anos takes the attack and breaks them with a spell, which ends up creating an explosion that hurts the heroes. After that, Anos is unconvinced that the four of them are responsible for supplying power to the barrier because defeating them is as easy as having a cheesecake, and Misha informs Anos that the castle is complete. Elsewhere, Laos is furious that Anos humiliated them like that, only for Sasha to approach him and introduce herself before promising to continue from where Anos stopped with the punishment. The two then begin to face off with each other until he begins to choke on his blood, and Sasha explains to him that during the course of their fight, she tampered with his school badge and modified it with poison magic. She then activates her Eyes of Destruction to send him to argue with the Grim Reaper. In the meantime, Lei is trapped in Heine's immobilizing barrier, and Heine summons her sword to finish him off, bragging about how anybody hit by the sword can never be healed by healing magic. She then proceeds to hit him, only for her hand to get sent to the skies instead. Although shocked that he can move inside her barrier, she regrows her hand and challenges him for using a fake sword. So he picks up her own sword and uses it to break the barrier, thereby causing her to crash to the ground. Heine is in complete disbelief that her sword is working against her while Lei moves closer to her, promising to only injure her since it is just an exam, and slashes her. In another part, Anos also confronts Ledriano and calls him out for faking his death. Impressed by Anos' perception, Ledriano summons his sword just as Zeshia proceeds to ambush Anos, but Anos overpowers her effortlessly. Ledriano then proceeds to attack Anos too, but Anos just sends him and Zeshia in the opposite direction. Left with no other option, Ledriano and Zeshia cast a spell with the help of their colleagues and other people in the city. With newfound confidence that they have solid backing, Zeshia proceeds to strike Anos, who immediately puts up a barrier to stop her. Ledriano also joins in the attack, but Anos stops them by casting his own version of the spell. Ledriano is in disbelief because the spell can only be created with love and calls it a cheap imitation, but Anos lets him know that demons can love too, so he calls on the Anos Fan Union to hold a cheer competition where they should sing about their declaration of love for him. The Fan Union immediately complies and begins to sing their hearts out while he continues to fight with Ledriano and Zeshia. Although his power overwhelms Ledriano, the ominous murmur starts to echo through the minds of the students chanting, "Eliminate the Demon King of Tyranny." Misha then approaches Anos and informs him that the voice they just heard was filled with pure hatred. Refusing to relent, Ledriano also readies himself to continue fighting with Anos, as does Zeshia, who tries to perform a sacrificial spell that ends up lighting up the whole place. Anos, however, is unaffected, much to Ledriano's disappointment, while Zeshia tries to try her luck again. Anos stops her, and as he does, his mind suddenly connects with Eleanor, who pleads with him to visit the shrine because she is the only one who can stop Zeshia. Anos then calls out to Misha to head to the shrine, and she complies. Getting there, she is suddenly ambushed by Diego with a spell, and he begins to stab her with all his might as revenge for all the times human eliminated demons. Misha tells him faintly that he is breaking the rules of the exam, but he does not care, and before he stabs her for the final time, Anos stops him. Anos then quickly casts a barrier around Misha and heals her. After he is done, he returns to interrogate Diego about the Hero Academy's motives. Deducing that he is the perpetrator behind the ominous voice, Anos uses his magic to transform Diego into a demonic monster, claiming it is a reflection of his true personality. Diego then tries to get his students to attack the Demon King's students, but Anos had already taken precautions beforehand to prevent such a thing from happening. Anos also plucks out Diego's source orb, lectures him about the true nature of Kanon, and then crushes his orb, thereby eliminating him in the process. Shortly after, he carries a weak Misha into the deepest part of the shrine, where he finds Eleanor encased in an orb and learns that Eleanor is magic. Eleanor reveals to Anos that she was created with a taboo magic spell that changes humans into magic, and this makes Anos realize that she is the one behind the healing of the 4 reincarnations of Kanon. Anos is, however, more focused on dispelling the spell Diego cast on the students without hurting them in the process, so Eleanor offers to find a way to help him if he lets her out of her orb. He complies, and she immediately dispels the spell. After Eleanor completes the task, she elaborates on the true nature behind the Hero Academy, which involves her cloning humans, so if a student ends up dead, there is someone else already waiting to replace that person. He then finds out that the person who implemented such a sick policy is Jirga because of his deep-rooted hatred against the human race, even after the Great War had ended. She also details how Jirga founded the Academy so his descendants wouldn't forget his hatred toward demons, and how he twisted the laws of magic to transform his source into 2 magic spells, one of which has the ability to brainwash people into eliminating demons. She also tells Anos how Kanon was against his idea idea and tried to dissuade Jirga from doing it, but Jirga eliminates him in response because he solely believed that humans had to be the ones to eliminate the Demon King. She then concludes that the betrayal probably discouraged Jirga from reincarnating, and then also confirms that Jirga's other spell is her, but she was a bust because she bore no hatred, so her only role is to create clones and nothing more. She then requests that he destroy her because she believes the youngsters she produces must hate her since all she does is set them up for dinner. Just then, one of Zacia's clones calls out to Eleanor and begs Anos to save their mother. Amused, Anos promises to save both Eleanor and all of the clones. Just then, Diego and his knights interrupt their session, and Eleanor confirms that Diego is a clone that would endlessly regenerate himself as long as she exists. Before Diego and his knights can act, Medellin, Zorro, and Eldora, who are members of the 7 demon elders, suddenly appear alongside the guy with the Black Panther mask. Black Panther then proceeds to draw Canon's holy sword, causing Diego and his knights to retaliate in anger, only for them to get sucked into a black hole instead. Anos then asks for the Black Panther guy's name, and he introduces himself as Avos, the Demon King of Tyranny. Annoyed, Anos proceeds to send Avos into a black hole, but Avos stops the attack and talks about how he wants to change the world into a world of demons swallowed up by deep darkness before taking his leave. A few days later, Diego spreads the news about how Canon's sword has been stolen from the shrine and the Demon King of Tyranny has revived after 2,000 years. He then starts to talk about how the Demon King is going to lead a demon race to cause an invasion. To make matters worse, Medellin, Zorro, and Eldora also spread news on behalf of the 7 elder demon emperors that their lord has awakened from a long slumber. Avos then appears to announce that they will be declaring war against the humans. A few hours later, Anos receives information about the current situation involving the impending war against the humans and demons by Boran, while Eviz, Idor, and Gaios are also in attendance. Anos then informs them that he will put an end to the war himself, but the elders refuse. Just then, Sasha, Misha, his fan Union, and Lei also arrive, and all insist on helping out, which makes him smirk and responds as he accepts their proposal. After the meeting, Lei walks up to a worried Misa, who opens up about how she is worried that Lei may not survive the battle. However, Lei assures her that he will be fine and takes one half of her necklace and promises to return it to her. The following day, Anos orders everyone not to die and not to eliminate anyone over what he considers a trivial war matter. He then informs them that Diego and his team have already positioned themselves for a counterattack, so the first to launch a strike will probably be Avos' force. Following his instructions, Misha and Sasha confront Avos' group in the west to let them know that their own demonic king does not have a desire for war. Anos' fan union is to focus on supporting the rearguard, while Lei and Misa should dismantle the troops in the east to prevent them from crossing the border to the west. Boran and the other 7 elder demon emperors on Anos' side then accompany Anos to the castle where they believe Avos is staying, and Anos casts a spell to disrupt Avos' soldiers. The soldiers think it is Diego's handiwork at first, only for Anos to call out to them and inform them to tell Avos, their boss, that he is the true Demon King. Still, the soldiers refuse to believe and proceed to attack Anos, so Anos creates an earthquake to crash them. Just then, Medellin, Zorro, and Eldora proceed towards them, but Evis tells Anos to leave it to them and encourages him to head to the castle to stop Avos. Getting there, Misa suddenly calls out to him to let him know she cannot find Lei anywhere, while Evis also informs him that they have captured Medellin, Zorro, and Eldora, but their manipulated sources are missing, and he also figures out that the castle is empty. Shortly after, Anos finally ambushes Avos at a place he suspects he would be at, and Avos angrily rushes towards him with his sword. Anos also runs towards him, causing them to crash into each other with Anos getting his necklace in the process. They then retreat, and Anos suddenly addresses Avos as Canon, which makes Avos remove his mask to show that he is Lei. Lei then asks how Anos was able to figure out he is Canon's reincarnation, and he shows him the necklace he bought with Misa, stating that the name he called the necklace was the same as what it was called 2,000 years ago. He then asks for his motive behind his actions, and Lei simply replies that it is because humans are weak. 2,000 years ago, after Lei was eliminated on Jirga's orders, he learned that 2,000 years in the future, Jirga had planned to unalive Anos himself once he reclaimed his power as Demon King. To prevent this from happening, Lei used the power of his sword to nullify this destiny and slowly rewrite history over time, creating a fake demon lord known as Avos. Lei then states that his intention is for the Avos to be slain by the humans in order to pacify the hatred instilled by the late Jirga and make it up to Anos. Understanding that there is no way to dissuade Lei from abandoning his intention, Anos forces Lei to fight him by holding his precious necklace as collateral, so the two draw their swords. They then engage in an intense fight, and within the first few minutes, Anos destroys 6 of Lei's 7 sources. Though the chances for Lei winning the fight are slimmer than a horse trying to pass through the eye of a needle, he refuses to relent and goes all out on Anos until he furiously stabs Anos in the chest. Surprised by this, Anos just smirks in response and wears the mask on his face. By the time the others eventually see what is going on, they realize that Anos has been stabbed by Kanon's sword. Anos also tells Lei to cheer up and informs him that he is just following his script to extinguish human hatred. He then addresses the others and forbids demons to stop seeking revenge on humans until the day the Demon King returns. After that, Anos discreetly returns Lei's necklace as Lei withdraws the sword from Anos' body, thereby removing his source and causing his body to crumble into dust. With that, Lei announces to everyone that the Demon Lord is dead, and the soldiers slowly start to retreat. However, Diego, in a fit of rage, declares that Lei isn't the hero, but a demon, and orders his Zexia clones to annihilate the demons by self-destructing. Eleanor immediately tries to stop him and implores Diego to cancel his order, but he refuses and begins to rant about eliminating all demons. Amid his rant, his body's energy starts to drain until he turns into a low-budget zombie, and an energy that forms a magical circle emits from him, which eventually transforms into Jirga. Jirga is disappointed that Lei chose to reincarnate as a demon, and Lei also expresses that he is disappointed that he gave up his existence as a human to transform into magic just to wipe out demons. Lei then tries to attack him, but Jirga's body is filled with sacred magic, so Sasha and Misha decide to take matters into their hands and fuse into one to take him on. Jirga decides to awaken the Zexias to self-destruct, but they are stopped thanks to the combined efforts of Lei, Misa, Eleanor, and Sasha and Misha's fused body. Even at that, Jirga continues to summon more Zexias with pride until Anos suddenly appears, catching all of them by surprise. Anos then explains to a stunned Jirga that he used Jirga's attack as an origin to retrieve his source. Jirga just smiles at this and claims that it will just give him the chance to personally give him a one-way ticket to the Shadow Realm. He then sucks the hope of the people and transforms himself into a giant gold knight in shining armor. Anos then calls on Lei to let them break the chain of hatred once and for all, and Lei agrees. With that, the two guys engage Jirga in an intense fight that lasts for minutes. Though the guys are easily overpowered by Jirga's newly acquired power, Anos counters Jirga by calling on his fan union to sing for him to boost his powers, and the union immediately complies. They start to sing to Anos' ears, but Jirga is not pleased with the lyrics of their song because he thinks they are mocking the sacred magic. He then tries to finish them off, but everyone, both humans and demons, works together to stop him from harming them. Ignoring the fact that they are putting their life at risk, the fan union continues to sing about Anos. Anos then lets Jirga know that the world is now at peace, as he can see them working together, but Jirga is too blinded by revenge to believe. Lei slashes him into two, and together with Anos, they put an end to Jirga for good. After the battle, Sasha and Misha split and hug Anos because they thought he had really died. Lei also apologizes to Misa for causing her to worry, but Misa is just happy to have him back, and they hug each other deeply. Soon after, Anos fulfills his promise with Eleanor by turning her energy source into his own, which allows her to maintain her power around her Zexia clones, and she thanks him. A few hours later, Anos returns home to see his parents, and when they see Eleanor with him, they immediately conclude she is another bride of Anos. Eleanor quickly tries to clear the air by stating that Anos just turned her into his magic, but his parents just think she is referring to a proposal. If you watched this anime recap and made it to the end, let me know in the comments if Misha is hotter than Sasha. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more recaps like this. Peace.